Hello friends and welcome to Steel World channel. I am D.A. Chandekar, editor of Steel World, and as you know we have been interviewing veterans from the steel industry to know the exact position of the industry post COVID. In that series we have yet another veteran from the steel industry who has more than 40 years experience in the industry. We have with us Mr. ACR Das. Mr. ACR Das has, as I told you, over 40 years experience in the steel industry. He has started his career with Usha Martin, then joined Rourkela Steel Plant, also worked in Bureau of Indian Standards, and finally went to Ministry of Steel, and there he was for last 35 years. He is there. He retired as industrial advisor, and after that also he was connected with the ministry and the industry as consultant. So welcome, Mr. Das, to our show.
Thank you very much.
And sir, I would like to ask you the first question. What is the present situation of the steel industry post COVID? Now it is more than 4 months that we have been under lockdown, and now what is the present situation of the industry?
Yeah, I think it is a very important question in current scenario. See, for the last 4 months, we all were very much concerned about COVID, and still today, I think everybody, all of us are very much concerned because it has endangered our life and it has very adversely affected all of us and the industry. In fact, you can see this, all the industry, not only steel, has been very badly affected. Its performance, whether it is production, whether it is consumption, everything has been very, very badly affected. And this is visible clearly if you see the last 3 or 4 months production figure in this financial year. And I am told that production during the last first quarter went down as low as 65%.
Okay.
This is something very bad. Then, in fact, in April, it was much worse. Whether it was production, whether it was consumption, in all fronts, it went down very badly. And April to June, of course, because there was some gradual ease of lockdown, and the production picked up. I think economy, started coming on the wheels. And although it was very, very slow in May, gradually picked up in June. And April to June, the figure, steel production figures improved. And I think the exact figure, although I'm not very much aware, but it was around 50% of what was last year figure. Even that is a huge loss. And similarly, the consumption figure was also very low. But one thing happened that was very, you can say, encouraging or discouraging. Our export figures went up drastically. In fact, it was 140% or so. The export figure went up, and import came down. And another point is that our export of semis, it went up. Okay. Now, people may ask questions why. Of course, the reason is that because there was less domestic production, a consumption, so obviously people wanted to survive. So you can call it a distress sell, and people started selling in the export market. And this happened with most of the integrated steel plants, and not in secondary sector, because secondary sector was the most hard hit. And in the first April, the production went down as low as I think by 95%. And in April also, it was very badly hit. So overall terms, I can say that industry had in Q1, it was very badly hit, and our steel production, our steel consumption has gone down very badly.
Yeah, but how do you see the future, sir? Do you think we can come on the track by say end of this year or something?
I think it is too early. In my opinion, it is too early to project the future. See, it all depends on how the COVID goes, how long it continues, when it tapers off, and when it really ends. And if you remember, most of the experts in the steel sector have been talking about, that by July or so, the COVID will reduce, it taper off and it will reduce, and by August it will be over. But do you support that? At
No,
least
no,
I don't support.
no.
See,
The situation today is very
see
clear.
the reports. My God, it is today 11 lakh people have been affected, and every day the level of infection is increasing at the rate of 35 to 40,000 per day, and death rate is 700, 800. So I am really reluctant to project a positive figure in this Q2. We are already in Q2, and same thing maybe in Q3. So as you asked me, maybe by the end of Q3, if there is no further complete lockdown, what has happened in the past by the government, but maybe end of Q3 or maybe by Q4, will be on the track. That is my basically assessment, but I don't know whether it will be true or not. It all depends on the COVID basically.
I know, sir. The situation is still very fluid, and the rate of COVID infection is increasing day by day. So we are really not able to predict where the end of the tunnel.
See, I think you are aware of the world steel scenario projections. That is, they call it, I think, short range outlook. That is for 2021. See, in the entire world, let me tell you here, India is not only affected by COVID, it is the entire world which is affected. And the steel production in 2020, which is the calendar year for WSA, is projected to go down by 6.4%, and Indian production by 18%. It is a huge, disruption in the system. But besides that, the Indian experts or many research organizations, I have seen the reports of many bodies, they say it will be the effect will be much worse. It will be maybe when it comes to March 2021, our production will go down, or consumption will go down at least by 20 to 25 million ton. This year, last year the consumption was 100 million ton. So next year, what we can project, or the current year, what we can project, it will be about 75 to 80 million ton. And 80 million ton is approximately the target of WSA also.
So that pretty bad scenario, or pretty, I would say, challenging future for the industry.
Yes.
So actually,
very challenging. I think
absolutely.
I think the scenario in the country is worse than as I told you, in the global average. But the scenario is very bad in many other countries. It is not only in India.
Okay. Yeah, it is a global phenomenon, and COVID has affected almost entire world. So whatever will happen to the entire global community. Sir, you were in ministry for many years. More than 35 years you were there, and then you were still associated after your retirement as consultant. And you have taken, you were part of lot of decision making and very important decisions that the ministry took. I wanted to ask you one thing for many years, that what was the perception at the ministry when you came out with that decision of quality order?
Oh, thank
because
you.
It is one of the very most discussed decisions of the ministry.
Yes, this has been after 2012. This was one of the very hot topic, and unfortunately or fortunately, I was very much associated with this issue or amendments or revision of this quality control order. See, basically, let me tell you one thing. The first quality control order was issued sometime in 2007. And then there was a lot of amendments, lot of addition, deletion, and a final quality control order was issued in 2012 March. I think 17 or 16 products. Now, what is the background? This is the initial background was to stop the import of large-scale import of second-sin defective. And one of the main reasons of quality control order, I should say the very concept was, the country was flooded with import of seconds and defective of CRGO steel. That was as high as 65 to 70%, and the prime import was only 30%. So the government decided that this is very adversely affecting our transformer industry or electrical transmission industry. So what to do? See, in that context, we cannot ban import. Steel is not a agricultural product or a food commodity that you can ban imports. You cannot increase the duty beyond the WTO bound rate. So under that context, it was decided by the government. In fact, we didn't decide. Let me tell you, the first quality control order was issued by Ministry of Consumer Affairs, not us. And that was the background. But later on, it was transferred to us, and we added more and more products gradually. So initially, the reason was to stop import of seconds and defective. But later on, the reason went beyond that, and because there was a lot of large scale imports of cheap imports, I should say, from various countries, and it was very adversely affecting the steel sector. So the steel sector approached the Ministry of Steel to go for technical regulations or the so-called quality control order, because this is as WTO friendly. Nobody can object, because if you want to say that the steel imported from any other country has to be matching to our Indian standard, and the domestic production also matches with the domestic Indian standard, then nobody can oppose in the WTO. In fact, initially there was an order by the DGFT which was only for import. So that was withdrawn because that was not found, WTO friendly, and legally it was challenged. But today, all the orders are applicable both on domestic production as well as on import. So it is WTO friendly. So it is going on very well. In fact, let me tell you, when I was in the ministry, 53 products were covered under quality control order, and that covered almost 75 to 80% of the total steel consumption in the country. But now 110 steel products have been covered, and I think that some more products are already under in the pipeline. They have been, draft order has been notified for public comment basically. So the order has gone a big way to curb imports of seconds and defective. And see, let me tell you one very important thing here. We are not banning import of steel per se under quality control order. What we are saying that seconds and defective who doesn't match with the standards cannot be imported, number one. Number two, we say that even the prime material cannot be imported unless it meets to the requirement of the Indian standards. So for that, the foreign parties have to get a license from BIS under the foreign manufacturers scheme, they call it. So it is a deterrent, no doubt. It is not banning the import, it is a deterrent. So the purpose is basically to ensure that only quality steel comes to the country. That is point number one. Point number two, the quality control order is issued under the BIS Act. Now, BIS Act provides, which has been amended recently in 2016, that there are some legal provisions or penalty provisions. If you say misdeclare a product, or you say you indicate BIS mark in the product without valid license, etc., then there is a huge penalty in the new act. So it gives a tool to the public at large to challenge or to go to the legal courts against supply of substandard product, number one, and also against misdeclaration of product. So I think this has proved to be a very useful tool. And apart from BIS, now very recently, in fact, after I left the government has gone for the SIMS, systematic import monitoring system. So these two have curbed import, or I should say unnecessary imports, in a big way. And in fact, the localization has improved a lot.
Yeah, of course. Sir, one point which was there in quality order decision was that the restriction on sulfur and phosphorus in rebars, and that necessitates the secondary refining of the steel. to get to achieve the reduced level of phosphorus and sulfur. So that was seen as something which is against induction furnace steel manufacturers. So they were a bit, anxious to, they were not clear how to deal with this.
Yeah, no, you
What
are
is
very
your-
correct, and thank you for reminding me this particular issue. See, another reason for the quality control order was that we should make available quality products to the public at large, to the consumers in the country. So how you can do that? The quality control order is the only respite. Now, what happened? We knew very much that secondary steel producers, particularly the coal-based DRI and induction furnace people, are unable to produce quality steel products, particularly TMT and structural steel. TMT,
especially with respect to phosphorus and sulfur.
Yes, I'm coming to that.
Yeah,
See, the point is that in induction furnace, it is just a refining. It is not a refining vessel. It is just a melting vessel.
Yeah.
And it is an acidic atmosphere. So you cannot remove the phosphorus, which requires basic atmosphere. So the industry was unable to do that. Now, question is, should we allow the substandard steel to be produced with high phosphorus? Because all metallurgists know, you are also a metallurgist, that phosphorus very adversely affect the strength of the steel, particularly in lower temperatures. So should we allow it? So government took a view, conscious view, that we should not allow sub steel to be there. So quality control order was introduced so that gradually we go for quality steel production even from this sector. And let me tell you, as a metallurgist, that even in induction furnace, if you manage your input, means more of scrap or good quality scrap, little bit of DRI, you can produce quality steel in the induction furnace also. But even today there are some problems in the secondary sector, and they have been asking for so many amendments and so many changes, and that we have done. Let me tell you, we had only one standard for structurals, 2062. IS 2062.
Yeah.
And to protect this sector, we forced BIS to make another standard for low tensile varieties just to protect this sector. There are a lot of products which are not critical in terms of load bearing. So even for TMT less than 8 mm, we have exempted. Bars and rods less than, I think, 6 mm, we have exempted. Similarly, what I want to say that we have tried to ensure that the secondary sector production is not affected very adversely immediately, but with the aim that in the long-term perspective, they must do something so that the quality is improved. And let me tell you here one point, Mr. Chandekar, Ministry of Steel spent a lot of money on R&D to remove phosphorus or to dilute phosphorus in the induction furnaces. And with SDF funding, we have given a lot of benefit, help to the sector. So the sector has been benefited, but some units have set up ladle refining. Some units wanted to go for some other methods. But I think on very large scale, this is still a problem to be solution to be found out.
Yeah, I know, sir. There were experiments being carried out regarding reduction of phosphorus and sulfur in induction furnace at NML, at NIST.
Yes.
But exactly, I don't know. Exactly. I don't think they are 100% successful till now.
No, actually, there are certain projects, like we explored. We developed a flux by NM. They developed a flux basically that is a good respite, but unfortunately they wanted some commercial trials. For that they wanted money, and that somehow has not happened. Second thing, there was one company in the south, they developed acid lining, neutral lining for this thing, induction furnaces.
Okay.
And although the cost is very high, I think the cost is 3 times the acidic lining, but the life is also very high. So some of the people in the country have already adopted this neutral lining. Basically, it is the alumina lining. So, I mean, government has been doing something, and at the same time, after the quality control order, we're finding ways and means to facilitate quality steel production. That was, in fact, I've been working on that
Okay.
perspective, basically.
That's a good information you shared with us, sir. Your
Thank you.
long tenure at the ministry has really helped the industry a lot. Sir, second decision which ministry took during your tenure was deleting the word secondary. There is nothing like secondary steel sector now. So what was the perception about this development at the ministry?
See, uh, unfortunately, I was associated in this initially with the formulating a definition of primary or integrated steel plant and secondary steel producers. See, ministry later on it has withdrawn that because the induction furnace people or other people they didn't want to call them as secondary because secondary they thought it was giving a wrong connotation that it is somehow the quality is bad or something like that. So they objected to this thing and ministry had to withdraw. But Mr. Chandekar, let me tell you, as a metallurgist, you know what is secondary.
I know.
See, secondary steel making remains secondary steel making.
Absolutely.
You call it by name,
but making is called the secondary. It is like that.
Yeah. So you call it or don't call it. The ministry may call it secondary or doesn't call it, but it remains secondary. And very interestingly, even if after I have left the ministry, still today all ministers, all secretaries, everybody talks secondary sector. But do you think that hot metal using an electric arc furnace is secondary? By no means. But absolutely it is being called secondary. Anyway. But the point is that I don't think the secondary definition, deleting or addition will help the industry or who is going to help the industry. What will help is that you should produce quality steel. And you have to convince the users that I am producing quality steel, so you should take it. See, it is basically, there's a history behind it. If you see the user sector, be it NHAI, be it railways, be it anybody, they used to write in their tender document that steel will be purchased from primary sector or integrated steel plant, or even they used to name Tata Steel, SAIL, etc., etc. That was a big deterrent, and you will be surprised to know even JSW, JSPL were not considered under that system. So Ministry of Steel helped them in a big way, and they started taking material from them. So this even JSW uses electric arc furnace, but does it mean that they are secondary or they are primary? That hardly matters. No way. Even the induction furnace people, I think now people are taking material from induction furnace also, because if you produce quality steel, those user sector will amend their rules or amend their guidelines, amend their tender documents. But you have to convince them. Unless you produce quality steel and convince them that, look, I am able to produce quality steel, this will not happen. Government, Ministry of Steel, in fact, wrote to all the ministries during my tenure also that, look, you should go by the quality, you should go by the Indian standards and not by whether it is produced by this route or that route. So, but again, let me tell you, that does not matter whether you call yourself primary or secondary. You have to convince the users. That's all.
I know. I remember, sir, when I was working in special steel sector, lot of automobile companies would not accept anything which is continuous cast. They would insist for that what is called a bloom cast.
Ingot casting.
They would insist for ingot casting cast material and would not accept for continuous cast material. So the time
exactly. Yes. So because today you see the induction furnace industry is changing. Whether not only in terms of size, but the technological level. There are many people who have got larger induction furnace as high as I think 40 ton or 50 ton also, and they have got secondary refining. They can produce quality steel as good as electric arc furnaces.
Yeah,
So
stainless
I
steel
think
also,
things
sir.
are going to
Stainless steel
things are
also.
going to change.
Yes, yes.
Yes, and let me tell you, see, government has recently published that that scrap policy.
Hmm.
Now, what is required in this country to promote the availability of scrap and also import? I support import of scrap, large scale import of scrap, and this has got two benefits. One thing that it's helps the electric arc furnace, electric induction furnace sector to produce quality steel instead of using coal-based DRI, which are many of them are substandard and high phosphorus. So that is one. And second, the biggest thing is that the government has recently signed that Paris Declaration or Paris Climate Agreement.
Yeah.
And last week only, our Honorable Environment Minister has signed that low carbon pathways, that joint ministerial statement. Now, how to reduce the CO2 in the steel making? This is one of the way that you should use more and more scrap in the electric induction furnace, in the electric arc furnace, and even in the integrated steel plant. Today you use, how much? Hardly 10% of the scrap in the BOF. Whereas in the global level, people go as high as 20 to 25%. Okay. So that has drastic impact on the reduction of CO2. So scrap availability, government policy is very, very welcome step, and we should allow import and no duty. See, presently there's, unfortunately, we have been fighting since long to reduce, to minimum, to do away with the custom duty of 2.5%. That is a big deterrent. That should be done away with, in my opinion.
Okay. Sir, coming back to this COVID-19, government has recently announced a 20 lakh crore package, stimulus package for the industry. So my first question is, one question is how far it is going to be helpful for steel industry? And sir, more importantly, what steel industry can do or what ministry can do for restoration of demand? Because I feel that is the most important hurdle in for steel industry to come back on the track. So first, 20 lakh stimulus package.
In fact, see this 20 lakh stimulus package, if you see the industry, you talk to people, talk to experts, you find mixed reaction. Okay. See, this 20 lakh package is mostly in the form of liquidity package. See, what was there? See, because of COVID, the country's economic condition, it was a total economic distress. So the government thought to do something to ensure that the economy comes on the track. So under backdrop, government announced an economic package. There are so many names to it, but the purpose was that. So 20 lakh crore package is one of them. But as I told you, it is mostly a liquidity package in the form of loan or loan guarantee. There is something available, direct benefit to the public, which are basically for the poor people and which goes to their account directly to ensure that they get food. But there is no direct benefit to the industry, including the steel industry, because you see, the steel industry has been asking for, the waiver of interest during this COVID period, then waiver of fixed charges, electricity charges, but these are not covered. So, obviously there is a mixed reaction, but let me tell you, I have also seen the newspaper and listened to these developments when Nirmala Sitharaman ji was announcing these packages. See, there are certain, I should say, indirect good packages. See, first one is that 3 lakh crore package for the MSME sector to help their working capital. Second thing was, I think the moratorium on interest rate, the loan payment. Then there was some benefit for the real estate sector. So these things has directly or indirectly good effect on the steel sector also. And apart from this 20 lakh package, I think I should say the money given to the people, or the bankers, two very important things have happened. They are not really monetary or economic package. They are basically, you can say, the reform packages. One is the new definition of MSME. See, earlier the definitions of micro or middle, small or medium were so low that by and large no steel sector were covered in that. Even the rolling mills were not covered. But today, I think the maximum investment level is medium sector is 20 crores, and about 100 crore is their turnover. So this will cover many small scale. I should say, you may call it a small scale. I will call it secondary sector. So there are lot of units will be covered.
Yeah, yeah.
So and they will reap the benefits of the secondary sector or the MSME sector. This is a good development. But let me tell you that this is not going to benefit the entire secondary sector, because when you set up a steel plant, only let us say electric induction furnace up to continuous casting, probably 20 crores will be sufficient. But the moment you add a DRI plant or a rolling mill along with it, a so-called integrated plant, it will not cover at all.
You will go above the limit.
So what I am telling, that this is partially going to benefit the steel sector, and overall terms it is a very good move. The second point which I want to tell you is the this reservation of government tenders up to 200 crores for the Indian manufacturers. This is a very good move. But in fact, I should say, why only government tenders? It should be all tenders, so that the Indian producers, they should get the opportunity to supply steel. Correct. And here, let me tell you, we can produce, we can supply all grades of steel, all types of steel.
Yes, definitely.
And in fact, today, 2 years back, we had no capacity of electro-galvanized steel. We had no capacity of CRGO. Today, we produce electro-galvanized steel. Today, we produce CRGO, although in limited capacity. So in overall terms, I should say, we are capable to produce all grades, all types of steel, whether for automotive grade, whether for yellow goods, whether for white goods, whether for structural steel. So I think this decision of 200 crores, it is a very good decision on the part of the government to help the steel sector, and of course the other sector also.
Yeah. Sir, second part of my question was how to restore the demand. As you know, there is some activity in construction sector, but as far as auto sector is concerned, it was near zero. The auto sale was near zero in April. So how do you think, what should the industry do? What help can the ministry or the government can provide in restoration of demand, which is the most important factor today?
Yes, I fully agree that the restoration of demand is the most important factor as of today. But there are two angles to it. The first is that the steel, I think that we classify into two broad categories. One is the long product, which is structurals and TMT bars. The other is the flat product, that is plate and sheet and strips. Now, see, so far as long product is concerned, majority of them goes in the infrastructure sector, construction sector, housing sector. So now these sectors are mostly in the government arena. So obviously the government has to really come out and ensure that the construction sector, the infrastructure sector picks up quickly. I know there are a lot of schemes in the government, so-called Bharatmala, so-called Sagarmala, multimodal, etc., etc. But I think it is not in the pace it is required. So government has to really do something to ensure that the space of all these infrastructure sector keeps up, goes up. And similarly, let us say government has announced that 100 lakh crore budget for the infrastructure sector. But this has to be on the ground so that the steel consumption goes up. Now, similarly, I think if you are aware, Ministry of Steel has been taking so many what is it called, seminars earlier or conferences, and now webinars, basically to ensure that the steel consumption is increased in various sectors, whether it is roads and highways, whether it is oil and natural gas, whether it is defense. In fact, I also attended a few meetings earlier before the COVID with defense, and now I saw one oil and natural gas conference convened by the minister himself. So these things are going to really, promote the consumption of steel. But what about the flat sector? This is a very, contentious issue. And but let me tell you, the automotive sector, for example, is suffering not only because of COVID only. It is for last 2 years. In fact, 2018 is started.
Yeah. Even before COVID, auto was not doing well.
Yes, not doing well. So, but today, of course, we are much below that level also. What was there with the COVID level, which was much lower than the previous years. So it is really very bad. But here, see, ultimately what happens? Who purchases automotive? Who purchases white goods? Or does anybody is purchasing these things today? It is very low. I mean, the purchasing power of the public at large and the middle class particularly has gone down. It is because of job losses. It is because of, even if you have the job, you are getting lower salary, lower wages. So, like you'll be surprised, I belong to a village, and villages people start earlier used to purchase cars, used to purchase motorcycle, but now people are finding difficult to survive. So what to call about automotive, what to call about motorcycle? So I think these are the reasons that automotive sector is doing bad, and it is going to I think do bad for the time being. But they're the ray of hope. I read one article recently, I think last week, that Honorable Prime Minister has convened a meeting, a very high level meeting, to basically find out ways and means to increase consumer demand, to increase consumer consumption, to increase income of the people. So and to engage people. Ultimately you have to engage people. You have to give them jobs so that they can not only their bread and butter, and they can save money and they can purchase these things. So that is the solution. Unless your purchasing capacity increases, and people are not going to really go for these, I should not say these are luxury items, but more of a luxury than saving your own life. So this is what is very important point, and that is the reason why this sector is not doing so well. And maybe in by not this year, by 2021, this sector will come on way.
Let's hope so, sir. One of the issues in this is uncertainty of the future. That also plays a major role in deciding whether to buy a certain thing or not. So
I think and actually the effect of COVID is such that people don't want to travel at the moment. And now you can see earlier, COVID was only in the big cities, few cities. Now it has, I think it's spread all over the country. And I am now in a place which is a very small town, but there are several cases of COVID. So people are very much concerned to travel, very much concerned to go out, and forget about purchasing anything like a air conditioner or a car or a motorcycle.
They want to safeguard their own life and their family's life. That is important.
But having said that, let me tell you, probably in the rural sector, the demand is picking up, because at the moment I am confined to a village, and I find that still there's a lot of construction job going on. And these are basically housing construction under the, what is it called, Prime Minister Awas Yojana. So it is a very good scheme. Similarly, this Prime Minister Gramin Sadak Yojana, under that also some work is going on. So I think these are good schemes, and at least the rural demand, which is already very low in our country, I think less than 20 kg, that will increase if these. But of course, the government has to invest money, and government has already schemes. But the I think it has to be monitored in a better manner. That's all.
Yeah. So, sir, let's hope that the situation improves in coming days and months. Demand improves, and I think
Yes.
if the demand improves, that will turn the economy wheel also, and there will be some
Yeah.
purchasing from the middle class and other sectors of the society. So let's hope all this happens very quickly, and we come out of the COVID as a country.
I don't, Mr. Chandekar, I don't think it is going to happen quickly because,
I
as I
know,
told
I
in the
know,
beginning,
I know.
it
There
is
is no
going to
harm in
take its
hoping
own
for
time.
the good time.
And another thing which I just want to mention here, I am finding a lot of people in the village which was not there in the earlier times because they were all far away from the village in the
Yeah.
cities in the industrial sector, but now they have come back. And
Oh,
I was talking to some people in our village or other villages. They say, see, life is more important. We
yes,
don't want to go back. Number one.
yes.
Then they say, ki, even if we are poor, but we can. We have. This is a very very good time also, a
Mm,
cultivation time. So they are engaged very much. Then
mm.
also government is giving them that what is called Mahatma Gandhi Narega scheme. They are getting some job. So people are reluctant to go back to the industry or to the cities or to travel.
I know this.
But but
Yeah.
but let me tell you that the industry has started functioning.
Okay.
This is a positive picture with limited labor, but maybe it has happened that you have to attract the laborers with some more salary. Your cost of production may go
Yeah.
up,
Yeah. Yeah.
but ultimately it will be very slow process. That is my point.
Okay, sir. Yeah, this COVID has changed the entire perception of the society. So let's hope all this
Yes.
ends very as soon as possible and the industry gets back on the track. And Mr. Das, thank you very much for speaking to us very frankly and very elaborately on various decisions of the Ministry of Steel, your involvement and their effect on the steel industry. Thank you very much for all this. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah. This brings to the end of this conversation with Mr. Das, and it was very interesting conversation, and we got to know a lot of things from the decision making of the ministry, their perception, and that effect on their effect on the steel industry. So this brings us to the end of this show. Thank you very much.